Hi folks, Joe Mull here from Ally Training and Development, which provides leadership development, management training, and staff development programs to healthcare professionals. And today we're going to talk about your level of motivation on the job, and more specifically, how to find your flow. Is this you? No, not a maxing and relaxing provider, but are you someone who is exhausted at work, often, despite doing everything you're supposed to, sleeping and eating right, taking breaks? Are you someone who is frustrated at work a lot of the time, and not just because meaningful use is upon us? Are you clock watching as the day crawls by? Are you someone who is depending on increasing amounts of caffeine to have any get up and go? While there are a variety of biological reasons you might find yourself in one of these states, it's also possible that the work you are tasked with doesn't align with your skills and abilities. Psychologically, you may be missing an important component of motivation. We know that human behavior is motivated by two drives: extrinsic motivators, the benefits, consequences, and rewards imposed on us by the outside world, and intrinsic motivation, when our behavior is propelled by our interests, creativity, and fulfillment. What social scientists have demonstrated over and over again is that intrinsic motivation leads to higher levels of performance and effort over longer periods of time than extrinsic motivators. So our energy level on the job is higher when our work taps into our intrinsic motivation. And among those conditions that trigger intrinsic motivation is challenge. The work we do has to align with our talents and abilities, our knowledge, skills, and strengths. Think back. Have you ever gotten lost in your work, where you experience a kind of tunnel vision, where you look up and suddenly realize that a big chunk of time has gone by because you've been so focused on or involved with your work? This is not just an anecdotal or a metaphorical experience. It's a state of mind that has been researched, observed in brain scans, and is often associated with high levels of focus and performance. Psychologists have a term for this experience. It's called flow. Flow is the quality of the experience people report when they are completely involved in what they are doing. More importantly, though, it's the feeling one gets when one is doing the best at something that is difficult to do. Athletes have a term that they use to describe this experience that you've probably heard before. They say they are in the zone. Here's why that happens. We all know that the brain releases dopamine when we're doing pleasurable things, like listening to music or eating a piece of chocolate. But what research has uncovered is that there's a different part of the brain that releases dopamine when we're doing something that requires effort and perseverance, or an output of intellectual energy and focus. The granddaddy of the study of flow is this man, Dr. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. By the way, there's going to be a quiz later, and your grade will be determined entirely by your ability to pronounce his name. Dr. Csikszentmihalyi says that in order for flow to occur, the particular kind of challenge we face matters. It must exquisitely match our abilities and allow us to progress and overcome. If it's too hard or too easy, we can get frustrated, bored, even tired or depressed. Whether you realize it or not, you know this already. If you have kids and you've taught them to tie their shoes, you probably didn't start out by tossing a sneaker at them and saying, "Good luck, Skippy." What would have happened? The challenge would have been too great. He or she would have gotten frustrated, angry, maybe even withdrawn. It might have impacted their self-esteem. Instead, you showed them the steps over and over again. And as their ability and knowledge increased, I'll bet there came a point where your child said, "Mom, let me do it myself." They were bored with you doing it. They wanted to tackle the challenge on their own, to learn and to test their ability. This progression occurs throughout our career. Our ability today is different than it was a few years ago. So what was challenging then isn't now. So as you examine your work and the level of challenge it presents, think not of where you've been, but of where you are going. And along the way, remember Goldilocks. Whoops, not that Goldilocks. That's better. Ask yourself if the level of challenge in your work is too soft or too hard or just right. This issue of challenge and the need for it in our workplace is discussed in depth in a terrific book that many of you have heard me recommend before, called Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us by Daniel Pink. He explores a lot of the social science research on intrinsic motivation and identifies those elements that must be present in the workplace to tap into our intrinsic motivation. And when he discusses challenge, he prefers to use a different word. He uses the word mastery to demonstrate the progress over time and how our level of skill and knowledge change, and that we must be in pursuit of mastery in order to maintain intrinsic motivation. So here's what I want you to do. Ask yourself this question. In what areas of my job do I feel unchallenged or stuck? If the challenges in your workplace aren't sophisticated enough to demand your ability, or if they're not reasonable enough to not be impossible, then you are likely going to experience frustration or boredom or a disconnect, and thusly be less motivated. You'll have less energy. You may even dread going to work. Or consider this question in a different way. What is my unique ability? We all have them. Are you fully realizing them at work? Do you get to do what you do best every day? Or are you stuck in a loop? Oh, and by the way, if you have employees who seem to be going through the motions, doing the minimum, or who seem frustrated or withdrawn at work, it's possible that the level of challenge in their work isn't appropriately aligned either. Ask them the questions posed in this video and begin a dialogue to help them find their flow. Whether it's you or them, exquisitely matching your ability to the challenges you face on the job is a crucial part of getting any healthcare team firing on all cylinders. I hope you enjoyed this video learning module. Please take a moment to leave a comment below. Tell me what you liked about this video, what stood out, what you found most helpful. For more great resources, be sure to check us out on the web. Until next time, stay motivated out there.